Training Sessions 2020, organized by Sección de Idiomas de la Facultad de Humanidades, Embajada de los Estados Unidos, Asociación de Jóvenes Ex-Becarios del Departamento. My name is Jocelyn Lopez, and I will be hosting this talk. Thank you so much for joining. There are some general instructions for you to follow. We will have 10 minutes for questions and at the conference, in which I will be reading questions you post directly in the live chat. 2. Do not forget to subscribe to our channels, Idiomas USAC and TTS conferences. You can stay tuned on all the conferences tomorrow. And again, conference teaching with the 5 parts of PEM Erika Arrecis, whom we warmly welcome in the name of Organizing Commission TTS 2020. Erika?
Thank you very much, Jocelyn. And thank you everybody for being in here.
I am going to read about you. Okay? Erika Arrecis, English professor, work experience. Colegio de Crowley Americana, English homeroom teacher. August 2017, present. Homeroom teacher through elementary, including 2nd, 4th, and currently 5th. Prefer to work with upper elementary students. Specialize on math. Lead teacher with the last 2 years. Online teaching capacities. In charge of some training regarding to technology. Instituto Básico y Diversificado. Ulises Roca, Barcelona, Villanueva. English teacher coordinator. February 2017 to October 2018. 2018 English teacher for Meets Outsourcing. 2018 coordinator for CX program and English teacher building. English curriculum. Students for Básico, Diversificado, and for Madurez. Colegio Campo Verde. English teacher, January 2010 to July 2017. Homeroom teacher in upper elementary. Schools attended. Universidad Mariano Galvez, PEM en Física y Matemáticas. Currently studying. Focus on Mathematics, Physics, and Statistics. Universidad de San Carlos de Guatemala. Licenciatura en Lingüística del idioma inglés. Closed Pensum 2019. Focus on Educative Administration, Translation, and Linguistics. Capable of building a curriculum for English subjects. Feminine English. Graduated. Able to teach in middle school and high school. Different methodologies, approaches, and alternative assessment. Executive summary. I am an English professor committed to my work and my students. Highly qualified to develop curriculums, lead, help, and teach others. Proactive, fast learner, and positive towards change and challenges. Finally, skills and expertise. Google certified teacher, remote learning, 10 years working as teacher, English teacher. Training at USAC for 3 years. Training at Municipalidad de Villanueva for teaching techniques. Remote learning trainer, constantly updating in practices and methodology. So, Erika, now the time is all yours.
Thank you very much, Jocelyn. And again, thank you everybody for being in here. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to share with you a piece of knowledge, okay, from all these years. So I'm going to share my screen with you so we can start. And so the title of this presentation is the 5E model. Okay, so before we start with this, I would like us to go to this website. This is called menti.com. I think that some of you already know it. And this is the code, so you can just type in your cell phone or in another tab, www.menti.com. It's going to ask you for a code, and this is the code. And answer this question. In class, my students are. This is a simple poll that I would like to know your answer. So how are your students in class? Are they very loud? Are they engaged with the topic? Or are they always asking for help? So please, we're going to take some minutes for you to answer this. And then we're going to continue. Thank you very much for the ones that are already answering. Okay, very good. It's good to see that from the people that are already answering these, the engaged column is the one that is growing, because that is the purpose of the class and of today's presentation. So I think that we can continue and leave this poll to be answered. Later on, we're going to come back to these. And I would like to have all the responses from the people that are watching us today. So I'm going to leave this in here, and we're going to come back here, okay? So going back to the 5E model, one of the most important things about this approach is that it's an inquiry-based instruction, okay? So students are going to be able to research by their own. So what are the topics that we're going to be learning today? Number one, the 5E model, what is it? And why should I use the 5E model? Number two, engage phase. What is it and how to engage my students in class? Explore. What is it and how can my students explore online? Which I think is one of the main concerns that we have nowadays because of the remote teaching. Number four, explain. What is it and who is explaining in the class? Number five, extend or elaborate. Depending on your source, you can find extend or elaborate, but in the end is exactly the same. What is it and how can they extend? And number six, evaluate. What is it and how do we evaluate? So number one, the 5E model, what is it? So history behind the 5E model. This is an instructional model which was created in 1987. It was mainly created for science, but that doesn't mean that it is not useful for the other subjects as math or social. We're going to think about teaching in English rather than teaching English, okay? Because for language, it might be a little bit different from what we are going to be learning today. So this is focusing on teaching in English. So if you want to know more about this history behind the 5E model, you can visit this website. But something key about this is that this model was thought to be shared with middle schoolers and high schoolers, because it was thought that because of the age and their way of learning, it was better for them to start stimulating the critical thinking. However, nowadays it is applied in the upper elementary grades and in the lower elementary grades. So it's great if we know how this approach is working. So it doesn't matter the age of our students, it is going to be a great way to share our lessons. So characteristics of the 5E model. It is primarily led by the student and it is inquiry-based. That means that our students are going to be in charge or responsible from their own learning. Of course, it is going to be guided by the teacher. The teacher role in this case is a facilitator. And sometimes we have like a crash on how am I going to facilitate? How am I going to be there if I have a room with 40, with 50 students? But it works depending on the routines that you establish with your students. So prior to apply this kind of model, it is very important that you have established routines with your students. So sometimes we are requested to teach our students using collaborative work or cooperative learning, you know. So in this case, it works fantastic because we're going to group our students and they're going to be responsible of their own learning. So how are they going to be engaged and stop being loud or stop asking for a lot of questions? Depends on how you develop or the tools that you use to develop your lesson. The purpose of this in the end is that students arrive at a deep understanding of fundamental concepts. So they are going to learn the things that you assign them to learn without you teaching in front of the class. And the process, each stage of the model serves as a foundation for the next one. So it is a coherent order. So we're not going to crop the lessons or crop the levels. This is explain and I chop the topic in there and start then with the elaborate, but it's a chain that works coherently. And our students are going to work on a very smooth way when they are developing their classes using this model. So why should I use the 5E model to plan? So first of all, because it is an inquiry-based model and allows your students to develop their critical thinking, but it also allows them to develop other thinking skills, such as differentiate what is what needs priority, what is important, what is not. Also from where they're going to research their sources, because our students might be used to searching Wikipedia and that's it, you know, but there are many other sources that are going to have a lot of information that they might use, but they are going to be able to differentiate them or to identify them the more they follow this kind of model. In the purest form of inquiry, the teacher plays almost no role. That means that you drop the bomb and they are going to be in charge of their own learning. You're going to be supervising and guiding some processes. Something like, for example, how they are organizing information, or if they are going to place a big paragraph with a lot of letters, these kind of things. But how they are going to identify the things or the information that they're going to use is up to them. That's why they're working in groups. Direct teaching only happens on a need to know basis. Like, teacher, do you think I should include this topic? And then you go and answer like, according to what you know, do you think it's important? Rather than no, don't put it, or yes, write it in there. You're going to help your students to discover what they need to know. They learn skills that enable them to discover strategies for designing investigations. That is something very important. Focusing, for example, on the scientific method. There is a process that is already established that they need to follow, but the way they develop each step of the scientific method might be on their own creativity. And finally, the problem that is guided inquiry can be challenging to implement. So something that is also tricky in this case is that this needs a lot of pre-planning. So I am going to sit in my computer and plan each step. I'm going to plan carefully each app or each tool that my students are going to use, and I'm going to design the route that I want my students to follow. So yes, it requires more time sitting on the computer planning, but it demands less time in the classroom. So it is like very balanced. Um, the teacher must be aware also of the misconceptions that the students have. So that means that if you know that the student is struggling, for example, with number sense, you can focus on that group of students. Depending on how you group them up, is the way you are going to develop your classroom. Probably you want to group them as all the high students together, which I don't recommend, but you can mix them all, like find their abilities and let them be able to choose also who they would like to be their classmates in a group. Of course, not pleasing all your students, but trying to strengthen their own abilities and different capacities. So this is the way they can be grouped. Then we're going to start with the first phase, which is explore. In this phase, everything is, I'm sorry, is engagement. So the first part is about engaging your students. How are they going to be able to understand and to attend to the teacher's topic? So during this phase, the students are going to be drawn into the topic. That means that you're not going to tell them, okay, today we're going to be learning about the Mayans, but you're going to guide them through a process, and you're going to use different strategies or different tools that are going to help your students to discover what they're going to be learning. Ancient cultures, vertebrates, volume. So they are going to be able to go step by step, discovering each of the things you want them to learn. Something that you have to be careful here is that you're not going to give them the vocabulary. This is not the stage where you give them the vocabulary and, okay, kids, these are the words. What do you think we're going to talk about? They're going to guess, you know. So the purpose of this is like, okay, how am I going to keep my students' attention, and how are they going to start working excited on what I have assigned for them today? So the characteristics of these phases that the teacher connects the current concepts with prior experiences. So if we're going to start teaching our students with the fractions, okay, so where do I see fractions? Before I go and aggressively tell them, okay, these are the fractions. We have fractions everywhere, for example, in a pizza, on a cake, on our schedule, like the portions of time we have. So where can I apply the fractions? Where can I apply like that kind of specific division? So connecting prior knowledge with the vertebrates, with the, I don't know, with the mammals. So what do they know? Number two, the students ask questions and misconceptions, for example, like, okay, chickens are mammals. Okay, that is not right, but we're going to discover how, you know? So it's not like, okay, no, you're mistaken. Or no, next, you know, like this kind of approach is not the proper one, but we need to guide them so they can discover why the chicken is not a mammal, and what are the characteristics of a mammal, you know? And the students start to develop a framework for the concepts to be studied. So they're going to be able to identify and to know what to do. Now, a lot of talking, but how do I implement these in class? So I need real activities. I need real tools that are going to help me to develop this phase. So what can I do to engage my students? So you can show a short video clip of the topic. So we can go to YouTube, but we are risking ourselves to find videos that might not be the ones that I want, or that some ads pop out of nowhere without without my permission, and that is kind of like dangerous. So on every of these activities they have in here, I have attached some links. So if you see here, I can go to View Pure, and here in the Teacher Resources, I can click in here, and I can find a lot of videos that are going to be useful for me. So I want to talk about ancient cultures. I am pretty sure that in this part, I'm going to choose upper elementary. In this part, I'm going to find only videos that are educative. So let's see, science, animals, earth, systems, and space, because that is going to be my topic. And I go here. So vertebrates. I click in here, and I found a video that is completely safe, and I can show it to my students. Or since this is an engaged phase, that means that it's not going to take me that much of time. I will assign in here that from minute 1, second 2 to minute 1, second 15, right? I am going to show my students. So I can generate a QR code. I can embed this video in the classroom, or I can add it to a playlist. So I create a QR code, and then I will share it with my students. You need to have an account for this. So after you create your account, you get your QR code. So I can share this part with my students, and that is an engaging video. I can do an internet image scavenger hunt. So how am I going to prevent my students to go to sites that are not allowed by the school, or since they are at home, they are not going to be supervised? So I click in here, and again, it's going to take me to another place. And this is like the kids version of Google. So they can go to Kaipedia, images, Kai images, news, and videos, safe for your students as well. So then I can go here to create a poll and graph students' responses in real time. What I did at the beginning with our poll. How are my students? I have 13 people answering that their students are engaged with the topics, but there are 7 and 9 that are very loud and are always asking questions. So what is your favorite animal? A panda, a giraffe, and a lion. So they are going to be able to answer that. And what is going to be the next question? What do these animals have in common? So they know that these 3 animals are mammals. You know that these animals are mammals, but they probably don't, or they don't know the technical word. So this is how you're going to be building up the knowledge. Then use an online concept mapping tool. This one is great. Of course, that these sites require you to create your user, but they're very cool. So I need a mind map, and I'm going to organize my animals on different ways. So for example, what animals are related with the lion? So all the big cats. What animals are related with the crocodiles, all the reptiles, or how to organize the animal kingdoms, or for example, how was the organization in the Aztec civilization. So we can ask them to create this without them knowing what they are creating, but only activating their prior knowledge. Then we can do a KWL activity, and we can use for this a Jamboard, or we can use any other tool that allows them, for example, like Padlet, they can create what they know, what they want to know, and what they have learned on different stages of the 5E model. A wow demonstration of the concepts. This is key. So how am I going to impact my students? Okay, we have to learn the I don't know, different elements of the periodical table. So I will click in here, and I have, for example, this one. This is for science, that experiments are always amazing our students. So I have in here the experiments that are already created, or there are videos about the experiments that I would like. So I just click in here and make ice cream. So I can click here, and I can watch the video here. And it tells your students how to create their own if they want to repeat it at home. This is just an example, but this can be a wow moment. For example, for the students, they love the elephant toothpaste. So you can show them that kind of video. Also use a very simple graphic organizer. You saw in the mind map creator that you have graphic organizers in there. But you also have this kids corner, and this is another kind of organizer. This is
The food
for
chain
the
game.
food chain.
Instructions. Drag the parts of the food chain to their correct place.
So in here, we're going to organize our food chain. So what goes first, what goes second. So this one is benefited by the bug and then by the flower. So if you see, it goes here. So it's too easy. So they're organizing without knowing this is a graphic organizer or a sequence organizer in this case. So we can help our students on different creative ways. Then we have also connect to literature. So we're going to go and give them a piece of paper with letters, and okay, we're going to connect this with the mammals. This is for the higher levels. They can research in there and just information about animals in the zoo or something that is not like literally related to the topic, so they can activate their knowledge. Okay, so you can ask your students like at the end of the zoo article, okay, what do you think we're going to talk about, like captive animals or like how the animals live in the class, but you're not like giving them the topic since the beginning. Okay, so possible questions to ask in this phase. After you have done your activity, what can you ask? Okay, what are your experiences with the fractions? Oh, they traumatized me because I didn't learn them on a proper way. Or what do you know about subtraction? Oh, I know that I have to put down my fingers when I count, or I'm counting backwards. What do you know? What do you not yet know about, I don't know, the elements of the periodic table? So you're going to drive these questions according to your needs, according to your plan, and according to the level of your students. And by the end of this phase, the students' interest is awakened and they are ready to explore more about the topic. So our students are going to be ready to start looking for sources to research. So the second phase is explore, okay? During this phase, the teacher provides the students with 2 or more activities. So this means that we're going to assign our students a couple of activities, but that doesn't mean that we're going to overwhelm them with questions or with things that is not the moment. 1 or 2 is going to work fine. And remember that we have an established period of time with our students. So can this be developed in 45 minutes? Yes, it can. So it is important that at this stage, our students start working collaboratively. So that means that we're going to sit our students in groups so they can start discussing. That is the main purpose of this. So I am going to be able to generate more knowledge by discussing with the people. Even if they are wrong, that is knowledge for them because they are going to be able to identify like the right knowledge or the wrong knowledge and guide each other towards your goal, what they really need to know. So we need to find very creative ways to generate their knowledge. So in this phase, the characteristics are, at this stage, the teacher provides hands-on activities. So projects or like, okay, this is a puzzle or this is a crossword. Students investigate a problem and begin to pose a real question. So for example, if we are going to start with the scientific method and we need to learn about reactions. So what is a reaction between the ice and the salt, for example? So can the oil and the water mix? Can the sugar and the water mix? So they are going to start asking different questions depending on the topic, and they're going to start generating and developing their hypothesis. So probably we are on social and we are using this method. So how did the Mayans move from one place to another. I think that they probably use horses, but they don't know if horses were already in America by then, you know. So how did they transport different huge rocks, or from where they took the stones to build Tikal? So these are questions that are going to start coming to their minds, and the teacher has to guide them instead of answering them. And the key concepts in this topic are identified, and the students develop their skills needed to test these. So again, you're not going to give them the vocabulary like, okay, so now that you have watched the video, we're going to start with the Mayans. So this is the vocabulary for the Mayans. So no, we're going to be waiting a little bit more, and we're going to start constructing this knowledge. So what activities? Again, what can I do? They can read articles, and a great website for this is going to Scholar Google, which is again a tool that is specifically for our students. So if I go and look for the Aztecs, for example, religion, culture, beliefs, social organization. So I am interested in social organization. I have in here different articles, different PDFs that are safe and that are with reliable information. Okay. So I can solve a problem. I can give them a problem. For example, we're talking about pollution, and that is a very common topic, but what can I ask them about pollution? You can ask them like how to create biodegradable school supplies, for example. So this is just a simple way like climate change to find a problem and teach your students about it, and start letting them explore. So healthcare, food insecurity, violence. So you can choose any of these like very popular topics, and they're going to start generating their exploration. Creating a model. So since they don't have a lot of knowledge about this, but they are starting to create it, they can start creating a model, either physical, or they can create it digital. So there are plenty websites where you can choose, and where you can let them imagine and create. So for instance, I'm going to choose here gallery, and you will see that here are many models already created. Of course that these are done by advanced students, but that doesn't mean that our elementary students can do these kind of things. Look, this one looks very simple. So we can ask our students to create a digital model, the ones that we know as maquetas for us, you know, so they can do it in here, and it's going to be pretty cool. Online simulation. This one is another thing that is very cool for the older kids. And in here, they're going to be able to test their hypothesis. So that means that my students are going to see what happens if, or what happens if not. And they can choose different experiments. And here in the simulations, I can choose physics, chemistry, math, earth science, biology, all sims and translated sims. So I'm going to go to math, because we always have problems with looking for things to do in math. And what can they do in math? Area builder, area model algebra, they can learn creating a model, balancing act. So here are a lot of things they can use to create, for example, here, fractions and mixed numbers. So they can create models, and you're going to save a lot of work, because they are going to be experiencing, testing, and trying if their hypotheses are real or not. And finally, laboratory investigation. So they can either try, since it's laboratory, it's about science. However, we can take them to a tour, and they can do their own investigation on a museum. For example, if you see here, King Tut Museum, I'm going to go to Egypt, and we're going to go to the museum. So I think that here, I don't need to know any of this information, but I'm going to go here. Oh, I want to see this coffin that is in here. So talk to me about this coffin. and I can move around in this museum, and I want to read this. So I will go here, and I can see this information that is in here. And I can check all of these things that are in here. So this is pretty cool, because if you want to visit the museum, just like this, I want to go, I'm in here, but I want to go here. I can move there, and now I have a different view. And some of these, they have like the information in there. It gives you like the option of reading, and they can check all the things that are in here. Let me see if it is possible with this one. I remember how, but it gave me like the option to check the information that was in here, and they tell you a story. So you can walk them through a museum, through an aquarium, or through any other place. And okay, we're going to talk about the Egyptians. What do you need to research about the Egyptians? Their writing, of course, or their sculpture, or the way they buried their mummies. So they can investigate. I'm sorry, they can investigate about this. It's not only for science, but they can do it in any other place. Now, what are the questions that we could ask them? What if you were on the period where the Aztecs were alive? What would you do? I think that I would run because I don't want to be killed, or any other thing, you know. How you consider what might happen when you put, I don't know, gasoline and fire together. What do you suppose if you leave an egg in the sun for the whole day? So these kind of things are going to start generating this exploring mindset on your students, and they're going to be able to research and investigate for the answer. Now, together, the engage and the explore phases provide a solid foundation on the explanation. When we go to the explain phase, they need already to have all this knowledge. They need to be engaged and want to work with the topic, and they need to explore all these elements so they are ready to start explaining. And this explanation goes very different from what we are used to do, standing in front of the class and giving a lecture, but they are going to be responsible of their own explanation. So the next phase is explanation. So this stage is when connections are made. So what I knew and what I'm going to be discovering in some minutes. So they are going to be able to start like testing if their hypothesis was real, or if they made a mistake when generating their hypothesis. And if they know enough about this topic, or they need a couple minutes to go back to the Explorer and look for something else. So in this part, the vocabulary is defined, but it's not a list that you're going to give to your students, but you can just guide them and tell them like, okay, we're going to talk about what words can we find that are connecting with the reptiles. So they are cold-blooded, they have scales, they are green, or they have a very thick skin. So this vocabulary is going to be generating by their words and how they're going to be describing the topic. And the teacher listens to the students' discussion and builds upon a class discussion. So this means that if I tell them, for example, okay, guys, so all the reptiles are green, and they're going to start telling you no, because the Komodo dragons, they are brown, or the chameleons, they change their skin, or even the iguanas, some of them are green and some of them are brown. So it's just like throwing again the bomb, and they're going to start discussing on a very guided way. Okay, So what are the characteristics of this stage or this phase? The students connect prior knowledge to experiences in the exploration. So what I knew about the chicken being a mammal, now I researched in my explore phase, and now I know that it's not a mammal. I can take, let me see, a cat, and a cat is a mammal. So now I have an example of what mammals are. The teacher explained the concepts and the students draw conclusions about their investigations. So be careful when you share these kind of topics or when you teach them. Be prepared, because some of your students might ask you like, teacher, but I just read in National Geographic that the koalas are not bears. So, and you said that the koalas were bears. I'm like, yeah, let me research, So you have to be prepared for their questions, and know that the information that you're saying is real and that they can prove it. So what activities can we do? So the first one is to analyze findings. So what I found on the Explore phase, we're going to analyze it in the group, and we're going to determine which piece of information is the one that we're going to be using for this. So what is relevant and what is not, what is important and what is not. So they are going to think critically and decide what to use and what to skip. Oral or video presentations. We're used to be asked for videos, and the teachers always tell us like, okay, record a video and share to me or show and tell. And that's it. That is assignment. But there are very different ways of asking your students for a video. And I don't know if you have tried this, it's very popular, but Flipgrid is a great tool. In Flipgrid, you create your user and you create kind of like an Instagram for your students, because they are going to be able to see this is where the students log in, and this is where the educators. So your students are going to be able to see the other kids' posts if you allow it. Because if you don't allow it, then you just watch the videos and check the videos, and that's it. They receive their feedback. So we have different ways of creating our grids, that is like the classes. Either you assign them an ID or with the student's email. So if you have that possibility that your students have an email, you can assign it in here, and both are very safe. So you go here to the grid, and you're going to be able to add a new topic. So with this, we're going to start like opening our folder, and for example, mammals. Okay, what can you tell me about the mammals in your community? So they're going to ask like, but a bear is a mammal, and I don't have bears in my class, in my community. But then there are different animals near of you, like dogs or cats, or I don't know, any other mammal that is rats, that are close to your community, and they're going to connect their knowledge with their context. How long I want the video? Oh, I want the video to be 1 minute and 30 seconds, or I want to spend the whole afternoon checking the videos with 10 minutes, okay? And in here, do I want my students to see automatically the videos? Yes or no? Nope. Okay, so video moderation. I choose a picture in here. Either I record a video telling them like, oh, this is what you have to do. I upload a video. I upload an image, a GIF, or an emoji, or I can use a Kahoot. So I create a topic, and I can share it with my Google Classroom, embed the code, or generate a QR code, and that's it. So I have in here my folder. Now, my students are going to have a different view in here, but they can record their response And they love filters. So they're going to use their video like this. They're going to record it, and they're going to be able to have different stickers and these things in here. And they're going to create very nice videos because they like it. And it's a tool that they are going to enjoy using. So this is with the oral and video presentations, the same as with the video clips. Laboratory reports, you can ask them to go and type something on Google Documents, or they can create an infography, or they can, I don't know, use any other tool, digital tool, to create a report. It's not like necessary to start very formal. You can teach them how to build a laboratory report as you are moving on in the year. Teacher explain the topic. You can give them a lecture and a mini lecture, like, okay, we're going to talk about mammals. So mammals have these characteristics, and these are examples of mammals, and that's it, your intervention. 10 minutes of a mini lesson, and that's it, because you don't want to overwhelm your students, and you don't want to give them all the information. Otherwise, they're going to start asking again, like, Miss, what did you say? Miss, can you repeat? Miss, I don't remember the animals. Miss, and you're going to stop letting them generate their own knowledge. Read informational texts. You can go to National Geographic website. You can go to Scholar Google. You can go to iCivics to get some information. A web quest. This is super fun. Super fun. My students enjoy it a lot. So you give them a list of 3 websites. For example, they're going to go to National Geographic, they're going to go to a museum, and they're going to go to Discovery Channel and website. And you're going to ask them very specific questions, like, for example, when was the period when the King Tut ruled in Egypt? So they have to go to the website and they have to search for the information. And you give them some time, and they're going to be able to answer as much as they can in those 5-10 minutes. But they have the pressure that they have to go back and forth in the websites and answering the questions. So they are not going to have time to waste or time to chit chat among each other. They're going to be very busy. Video clips, again, as I said, with the Flipgrid. And finally, complete the KWHL. So what I know, what I want to know, how can I know more, and what I've learned, okay? So that's the meaning of the H, how, okay? So what are some questions that we can ask in this phase? What patterns did you notice? For example, in the food chain or in the plants kingdom? What do these have in common? Why do you think that, I don't know, hypothesis? What evidence do you have of these? Why do you think that? Why do you think a rat is not a mammal, for example? Or I know it is a rodent, but it's still a mammal. So why the chickens are considered as the new dinosaurs, or why chickens come from dinosaurs, these kind of things. You are going to test their hypothesis. So these are the possible questions that you're going to challenge your students to answer. And the conclusions have been made. They have already tested their hypothesis. They have already discovered if their thoughts were right or if they needed to research more. The vocabulary has been defined. They already know the words. They already know the technical words for the topic that they're learning. So what is next? Because from here, I can conclude that, okay, it's time for a test, but not really. If we stop the process in this point, that is going to cut our students' learning path. So in what way I can let my students learn more? They are going to elaborate. Remember that many of us many of us learn by doing. So probably all the other abilities were already stimulated. They're the ones that are visual, they already learned by watching a video. The ones that are I don't know, I forgot, but the ones that are more that have more developed the language skill, they already read and got all the information. But what happens with the ones that learn by doing, the kinesthetic? So in here, they're going to be able to test and to try their knowledge. So okay, I already tested my hypothesis, but let's take some actions on it. So all the knowledge and vocabulary that students have, that a student has gained, is now elaborated upon and explored. So students are going to start working on their projects. So the characteristics of these phases: students take their new knowledge and apply it to novel situations. That means that no matter how or which scenario they might have, they're going to be able to develop it. As I said in the Flipgrid, what are the mammals close to your community? It's like, I don't have bears, I don't have lions, but you have rats and dogs and cats and bunnies. So in here, they're going to be able to determine and to identify the topics that we're giving to our students in a real context. And teacher poses new questions and provides opportunities for students to investigate answers. So anything that wasn't clear in the previous phases is going to be tested here, and they're going to be able to try. So what are the activities? Okay, classify objects or situations. You give them a broad list of animals, and they're going to classify the animals between farm animals and pets, for example. And they're going to see that a lion is not a farm animal and it's not a house animal. So it has another category, and they're going to discover it in there. Or for example, what are the characteristics of the people that lived during the Renaissance, for example. So they are going to gather all these categories, and they're going to identify which are the ones that goes where, and they're going to sort all the information that they have. Conduct a descriptive investigation. So our students are going to be able to describe the things that happen. So this is more like the common show and tell that we have. So it's like in the Renaissance, people did this and this and this and this and this, but they already researched it, and they are going to have the proof and the sources where they took the information from. Conduct a comparative investigation. So this one is very cool, because this one, besides having them researching about the topic, they are going to compare, and that requires more time and more skills. So what do you infer when we compare the Incas and the Egyptians? They're completely different, and they lived in different time. But what are their characteristics? So they are going to compare and contrast these two civilizations, and they are going to be able to do it. But what happens with math in this case? So they can compare, and they can research different discoverings from different mathematicians. For example, how were the measurements discovered? For example, the international measurement system, and they are going to determine where the names are coming from. So you can ask your students to investigate and to create these kind of researches and papers, so they can have more knowledge, not only the algorithms, but they are going to know the history behind those algorithms. Conduct an experimental investigation. We can think on science, an experiment, but they can also experience how the Mayans live, and for one day they're not going to play soccer, but they're going to play this game. I don't remember, like the Atok, I remember was the name of the sport they played. So no soccer for today, and that is going to be an experimental investigation because they are going to experience what ancient civilizations had, or they can just have the cell phone taken off and they are going to need another way to communicate. And how was it comparing, I don't know, early 19,000s and late 2000s, you know, so they can have this comparison. And it is not only about creating experiments and reactions, it can be more. Revisit previous investigations, what they didn't explore, like all the draft they created, they can finish it here. And solve real world problems. So as I was saying, like how can we create school supplies that are biodegradable? Like, but the crayons, they are biodegradable, yes, but we can look for different things for the crayons. For example, the wax crayons, what is a substitute for it? Or for the notebooks, how can we substitute it without using any electronic device? So our students are going to be able to solve these problems in this phase with the knowledge that they already have. Possible questions for this phase. What do you already know about biodegradable objects? How do you think this can be applied to school supplies? What would happen if we don't have technology nowadays, like digital technology nowadays? Or what have happened in different pandemics before, and how has the school developed, for example? So that is a great question, because we have had pandemics before, but how has education developed on those pandemics, you know? So we can ask our students to connect the past, the present, and the future in this phase. So what have you thought before? What are you doing right now? And what do you think is going to happen later? So another benefit of this phase is that it allows the students to observe how much they have learned. So by this point, your students are going to be able to self-assess and like to determine if they have learned or not. Okay, it's not your duty at this point to tell them, okay, you haven't learned anything, or you're not paying attention, or what you think is wrong, but they are going to be aware of that. If they think that they have the capacity to express of this topic as experts, then they are on the point you needed them to be. So this takes us to the last phase, which is evaluate. The evaluate phase is very simple, but it has many elements. So teachers evaluate the learning that has taken place through performance, informal, and formal assessment. So we have two different sub phases in here, the formal and informal assessment, and we choose which one we want to apply to our students. So it is not that we're packing up everything right now. Okay, guys, this is the worksheet and finish it. No, but we have to think, is this topic requiring formal assessment? Should I give them quizzes, a worksheet, or whatever? Or I can just let them create something and I have a rubric, and that is going to wrap up everything. Remember that all the phases have been assessed by an informal way. So we have already asked them to do different things, and they are able to test their knowledge on each phase. So by this point, you choose which one you want to use to assess your students. So what are the characteristics of this phase? Students evaluate their learning process. If they are missing something to learn, because it's almost time to be evaluated, and they're able to prove what they know by performance. So if they are capable of creating by their own, they're ready to move on. They're ready to continue learning something else, or to build different things from the topic that you have just taught them. So what activities are ideal for this? So we have performance assessments. Okay, we're going to talk about the Renaissance, and the most common thing is either a worksheet or they can do a play. That is performance, that they are going to create a play, or they're going to do a video, or they can do something else. Self-assessment tool with a rubric. Okay, so we're going to give our students a checklist of the things they should know, but they're going to assess themselves. So we're talking about mammals. First question, do I still consider a chicken a mammal? Yes, no. From 1 to 10, how do I feel if I had to talk about the mammals in front of my class? How many groups of animals are part of the mammals? What are the categories? And these kind of questions, you know, so they're going to be able to check and self-assess, but a rubric. What is the rubric going to include? Clear explanation of the topic. So probably I put in my checkbox that yes, I know 10 because I can explain the mammals, but can I use technical words to describe the mammals? 4 points. I use some technical words to describe the mammals. 3 points. I use few words to describe the mammals. I don't know, 2 points. And I don't use any technical word to describe the mammals. 1 point. For example, so you create a rubric and they're going to be able to see both, to compare their checklist with your rubric. So what are you going to be evaluating is what they have to be able to prove that they have accomplished. Graphic organizers, they can organize different categories with characteristics. Worksheets, quizzes, unit tests is the time for it. Checklist of important concepts and vocabulary. For example, if in my unit, I'm just trying to reinforce the vocabulary because tomorrow I'm going to go and do the next part that connects with this one. So I can ask them to create different things with the vocabulary, not necessarily sentences or fill in the blanks, but they can do something else with the vocabulary or with the concepts. Construct a model. They can create a physical model, or they can create a digital model, including all the things that they already learned. Creative assessments. And when I use the word creative, I don't mean using a lot of colors or wasting a lot of materials, because there are many different things that our students can do and that are going to be creative. We can ask them to create a magazine. We can ask them to create a brochure. We can ask them to create an advertisement. We can ask them to pretend to be safeguards, and they're going to talk about the sea life, and they have to record a video. So being creative doesn't mean that we're going to waste a lot of resources or that we're going to waste a lot of material, but it means that we're going to find an alternative way of assessing our students. So I know that the alternative assessment now, it's a trend because we have to find a way of assessing our students without sending worksheets to print, things that they're going to send a blurry picture and we're not going to be able to read it. So what are these alternative assessments? Are all the projects that they can create and that they can record or place on a website. So for instance, they're going to do a brochure, they're going to do a flip note, notebook, they're going to do an interactive notebook, they're going to do different things that are going to be the evidence of what they are working on or of what they are learning. So these are the creative assessments. And finally, an oral video or presentation, which is the same as we have been learning before. They are going to send you a video, they're going to send you a voice note, and that is the way they are going to demonstrate that they have learned something. So what are the possible questions in this last phase? We're going to list 4 things you know about the Incas: where they lived, what are their animals, their dressing, or their custom, their food. So with these questions, you're going to test if your students are able to develop a conversation based on the knowledge they just were exposed to. Explain more about the fractions, or define the word denominator, or why do you think the decimals are connected with the fractions? What evidence do you have? So these questions are going to conduct our students to generate more knowledge. So probably today's lesson is already closed in here, but what else comes after my topic? So I can still talk more about different characteristics of the things that I have, or my students can have, for example, as a homework, answer 3 questions you have up to now that weren't solved in the presentation, in the learning thing. So we're going to conduct our students for the next steps. So at this stage, at the end of this stage, students compare their previous understanding to their new knowledge. So is it the same that I knew on the engage phase as what I know in this final evaluation phase? They are able to prove what they know in writing, conversation, and demonstration. So if they are able to write about the topic, to talk about the topic, and to model about the topic, or to model the topic, they're ready to move on. So what are the next steps? What do you have to share with the class besides what we have just learned? So that could be like a homework, like reflecting on their knowledge. So this is it. Thank you very much for your attention. And I don't know if there are questions regarding to the topic. I'll be more than pleased to solve them.
Thank you so much, Erika, for such a great conference and for information. And sure, from the audience, what is the name of the website for the museum?
Okay, since the presentations are going to be shared, I can send it to you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look for the link.
Okay. Okay. In order to take advantage of the time, I'm going to tell you another question. Can Flipgrid be used in the teaching of English learning?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again, please?
Can Flipgrid be used in the teaching of English language?
Yes, it can. Actually, it's a very great tool. For example, if we are teaching our students a pronunciation, they can record themselves pronouncing certain words or reading a paragraph. I use it for spelling. So I assign a lecture, a paragraph for my students, and they read it to me in the video. So it's good for that too.
Okay. Thank you. And yeah, basically the link from the museum and the presentation. And okay, this is going to be shared to all audience in the website from idiomas on the fan page. Sorry. Okay, and the other missing questions are going to be shared and answered by Erika in the chat. Okay, don't worry. And now, just to finish it. Okay, thank you for all the information that you shared, Erika. That was really useful. And for our dear audience, the attendance form is going to be shared in the YouTube channel in the transmission right now. And if you're filling it, You have 10 minutes until now. With all your information, remember that it's about TTS. Okay? So basically, this is everything for now, and this has really good content. So we invite you also to join us to our next conferences for TTS during the rest of the week. In this case, tomorrow, and at 5 today. Create a language environment. This is our next one. And thank you, Professor Erika, and have a really great afternoon. And this was it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.